This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
New York's hold on a home playoff spot may be slipping away as soon as tonight after the Red Bulls failed to capture a point on the road in an ugly loss at Chicago. Meanwhile, an old enemy makes its way to Red Bull Arena for the first time this season. Seeing Red, New York Soccer Roundup. Mark Fishkin here with Daniel Rebane. How are you, Daniel?
I'm doing fine. Better than Red Bull has since June. So that's all I can say about that. You know, football season's here, so I'm happy about that. You know,
yeah,
maybe not the Giants, but,
no.
but Army's doing really well. So
you are repping the gold and black.
Yep. Come on, baby.
You know, some nationally recognized writers don't want to talk about the Red Bulls anymore. We don't have a choice, though.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do every week. So inside this episode, a look back at the loss to the Fire. As painful as it may be, we'll give our Bull of the Week, if we can find one. Our preview of Atlanta United's visit to Red Bull Arena, the first time Atlanta United and the Red Bulls will tangle this year. Our chat with Jason Longshore of Atlanta United Radio, and nobody knows Atlanta United like Jason. And then your emails. Please do the liking and the subscribing. The liking's good. Subscribing's better. Do both. We appreciate it. New York went to Chicago on Saturday night. And, you know, when the Red Bulls play teams with former players, you always expect them to do well. It is just kind of the way it works around here. And, you know, we all know that Tom Barlow is inevitable wherever he goes or wherever he plays. And a half hour into the game on Saturday, Chicago goes from back to front in a minute, helped by a unfortunate header by Noah Ayla right into the path of Hugo Kuipers, who took a solid shot that Coronel saved, but Tom Barlow right on the doorstep with a tap-in goal, one of the easier goals of his MLS career. And you have to give the former Red Bull credit. He didn't celebrate. He wasn't throwing it in New York's face. There are a lot of folks on this team that have played with Tom Barlow for many years. But nevertheless, as often, Daniel, just a header, a half an 10 degrees wrong angle, and New York is down early again.
Yeah, when I wasn't able to watch this game live, but when I saw the notification that Tom Barlow scored, I mean, you don't understand. Like, I almost collapsed to my knees in Dave & Buster's when I was watching the UFC fights. Like, that just, and it's funny because I was on another podcast before the game, and we were talking about Tom Barlow, and we're like, yeah, it's probably going to score. It would be poetic. And what does he do? He scores his first goal in a Chicago uniform against Red Bull. At this point, I feel like, you know, fans, whenever we play a former player, you just got to bet them to score a goal against the Red Bulls because it just magically always happens. And, you know, good for Tom Barlow. You know, first goal of the season, you know, that says what his season's been this year. But, yeah, again, another team that Red Bull's playing down to, and they can't even get a point in Chicago.
Yeah. And, you know, I think on a night like this, you know, a home draw against Kansas City when the team needs a late goal in order to salvage a point, they go on the road. These are not good teams. No. These are teams that are unlikely to make the playoffs, and it all comes down to scoring goals. New York did score a beautiful goal in this game right after halftime. Schwartz puts on both Van Zier and Yengar right at the half. 90 seconds later, a tremendous effort by Van Zier, who was very closely marked going down New York's right side. Little start-stop, little change of pace, gets free, floats a perfect ball right into the six. And, I mean, to Yengar's credit, it was a high degree of difficulty volleying the ball in. He was also completely unmarked in the 6-yard box. And I'm not saying that he should have scored. It was a highly technically skilled goal, and brought New York level. And you think, here we go.
Right? Yeah, I mean, when you see that goal go in right after halftime, I mean, you said it, like 90 seconds right after halftime. I think that gives the team a real lift but for whatever reason, they're just not able to take that momentum and find that second goal. And then obviously, when you don't get that second goal, most of the times, for Red Bull at least, the other team finds that next goal, and they drop points once again, and to a Chicago team that's been really lackluster this season.
Red Bulls last won a game. Now, mind you, it was before the League's Cup, right? They haven't won since League's Cup, and it's a month-long tournament. They haven't won since July 20th. They are with 2 losses and 2 draws in the league since they've returned to play. And late down the stretch, so first of all, the goal was one of 2 shots on goal that New York had in the entire match. The last one was saved, a very nice save on Cam Harper, who had a decent shot in the 68th. But nevertheless, the winning goal from the Fire just simply should not have happened. It was off a corner. Reyes clears the ball to the side to Haile Selassie of Chicago. Manuel is in the area, doesn't really touch the ball. The ball is cycled back to Kellen Acosta. Manuel does not close down Acosta in time, which is a problem. But the other problem is that Koutsias for Chicago is sitting unmarked in the box, slotted right between John Tolkien and Andres Reyes. And he does what strikers do, which is heading the ball down past Coronel. But mistakes all over the place. Reyes not clearing the ball cleanly. Manuel not closing down the ball and allowing the cross in. And then, there are 4 Red Bulls within 5 feet of Koutsias. None of them are able to get to the ball, which was not a terribly well cleared ball, other than the floated in ball, other than the fact that it went right to the player's head. And now New York's down 2-1 on the road with 15 minutes left. They didn't attempt another shot until the 96th. So from the 75th to the 96th, and mind you, when Kellen Acosta is on the field, right, he takes up a lot of space. He's absolutely clogging channels. But to go the last 20 minutes of the match without attempting a shot, I don't want to say the team laid down, but they certainly seemed baffled as to what they could do to get pick up the point.
Yeah, you brought it up. It's kind of for whatever reason this year, it's been like the basics and the small finer details in defending this year that's kind of let Red Bull down. Whether it's they turn off for a split second like they did on that goal, or when they clear the ball, half cleared the ball, and Manuel can't get it cleared fully. The sin is you never let a recycled ball back in off a corner, and what happens there? They score their second goal. But another point you bring up, they don't get another shot on target until the 96th minute after that. Yep. And Wayne Gretzky said it best. You can't score goals if you're not getting shots on net. So at some point you just got to say, why not just take a shot? Sometimes they'll go in, sometimes you'll miss, but shots on goal has got to be a thing going forward. Just test the goalie at a certain point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Brady's save on Cam Harper in the 68th was his only save of the night. New York put 2 of 13 shots on goal. Van Zier got a frustration-laden, silly yellow card late in the game, late in injury time, where he shoved the Fire defender into Brady. I guess that showed fight, that he was frustrated, but not the smartest thing to do. Felipe Carballo had the last chance off a volley in the 100th minute, but it went wide. And so New York, again, since July 1, when Emil Forsberg got hurt, 2, 3, and 8 in the league. And what that means is New York has been in 4th place for seemingly 3 months, right? As they have leveraged their 8-3-5 start to stay near the top in that last home playoff position. If the results go a certain way, the Red Bulls could be 6th by the end of the night. By the time you by the time you watch this or see this or listen, I've had quite a week. The Red Bulls have could find themselves in 6th place, and then they've fallen back into the dog pile. and then they're going to have to win a couple of their last 5 games in order to secure themselves where they want to be. One of those results that would push New York down. New York City is down at home to Philadelphia 2-0 in the 29th minute. That'll keep the Red Bulls up a bit. And Orlando and Charlotte are about to tip off. So that's the other match. If both Orlando and City won tonight, then the Red Bulls would drop to 6th. If either of them win, New York will drop to 5th. But nevertheless, do you have a bull of the week of a kind of a listless draw? The home team hadn't won in 6 matches in this series, and Chicago got the job done. The Red Bulls didn't.
I'll make one last point on the game, or what that stat you brought up since July 1. I mean, and I think it kind of shows you how far coaching can go. Like we all know Sandro's had a great year. I would say great year coaching wise with what he's been handed with to get him into the spot. But at a certain point, you need talent, and missing Emil Forsberg, your best player, for this amount of time is devastating. So I believe they're averaging less than a goal per game since he's been out. So
yes,
it's just when you can't score, and you're giving up a goal, you're not going to get wins if you're averaging less than a goal per game. So bull of the week, I would say probably Gengar, because that was a great goal. The technique, like he was wide open, as you said, but the technique to redirect that into the net, that's bravo from him, because we haven't seen much of that from him since he's come over, and it's good to see that he has that in his bag.
Yeah, quality. I agree. And as much as maligned as Van Zier has been really in his Red Bulls tenure, it was a quality finish that a quality assist. Mm-hmm. He really worked hard to get that ball in. But again, for Gengar, I agree. Bull of the week. Well done, young man. All right, let's talk about Atlanta United. So strange that it's match 30 before the Red Bulls in Atlanta play. What is up with that? All right, first of all, the remaining schedule. Important to note that we're down to the final 5. 2 of them are against Atlanta. The Red Bulls have done very well historically against this team, and they're in a big state of flux. Again, New York City going down 0-2 at home to Philly. That may signal that they may be weak. But again, I mean, we joked about this. It may have been the last time you were on, Dan. There were 8 games left or something, and we looked and we said we see 5 wins here. Yeah. Well, they haven't won yet. They're going to need, 2 wins and a draw out of these matches if they want to get where they're going. I don't trust beating Columbus for sure. I think Saturday night, to say a game is a must win is kind of a joke in MLS, but if New York is looking to really get just feeling better and having its fan base feel a little less aggrieved, then Saturday night really is, you can make the argument, the easiest match out of all of these. Because
definitely need 2 or 3 of these. You definitely need 2 or 3 of these wins.
Yes,
out of the 5 left. So
agreed.
Time to step up, boys.
Saturday, the Red Bulls return home to host Dax McCarty and Atlanta United. Atlanta, again, another team with single-digit wins. I think that's 3 or 4 in a row for Red Bulls. 8-7. They're 8-13 and 7. 13 losses, 7 draws for 31 points. That's good for 10th in the East. They've scored 36, and they've conceded 40 in 28 games. They've conceded 40 goals in 28 games. They are just 3-7-4 away from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's 11th best road record in the East. And they are near the top of the league in these categories. Accurate long balls per game. Think about that. This is a team that plays a lot of long ball. Second in crosses per game, in accurate crosses per game, and second in MLS in touches in the opponent's box. And if there's anything just to go back to the goal that New York conceded against Sporting Kansas City the other week, when they literally played with the ball, unable to get a good foot on it right in front of the 18, that is not something you necessarily want to do when you're playing Atlanta. This is a team that has wholesale changes since the Red Bulls last saw them. Miguel Berry was traded to the Galaxy. Miles Robinson went back to Cincinnati. This isn't even a complete list of players that have left the team. Franco Ibarra went back to Argentina to Rosario Central on loan. Santi Sosa went to Racing in Argentina on loan. Giorgios Giacomakis signed with Cruz Azul for a tidy sum for Atlanta. Thiago Almada went to Brazil to join Botafogo. Caleb Wiley, young American homegrown, signed with Chelsea. He's currently in Strasbourg. And Haitian winger and Red Bulls Academy graduate and MLS Cup winner Derek Etienne left Atlanta to go to Toronto. Oh, boy. All right. In comes American Josh Cohen as a goalkeeper, as a free agent. The ageless Dax McCarty, who will be retiring at the end of this season. Yep. In the top 5 all-time in appearances in MLS, joined the club from Nashville, and we'll hear a little bit about that story when we talk to Jason Longshore. Stian Gregerson from Norway came in from Bordeaux. Derek Williams is an Irish center back, arrived on a free. Polish midfielder Bartosz Szilch signed from Legia Warsaw and was recently upgraded to DP status. Daniel Rios, the Mexican striker, came in from Chivas. And the Russian attacking midfielder Alexei Miranchuk was signed from Atlanta. He is the 10, and here is a fun fact. For many people, this is believed to be the first ever transaction between Atalanta and Atlanta. But there was one previous transaction when Atlanta signed Chilean midfielder Carlos Carmona back in 2017. That was an Atalanta signing. Themes for Atlanta, definitely a team in transition. They've lost some crucial players. First in the winter window with Miles Robinson, and then the summer window with Almada and Giacomakis and Wiley. So they are really switching it up. But of course, they got rid of Gonzalo Pineda midway through the season, and new signings Alexei Miranchuk and Pedro Amador are being slowly integrated. But they were pretty much thrown in right away without any cover because the team has struggled so much. They haven't solved and replaced Giacomakis at the 9. Daniel Rios and Jamal Tiare are battling it out for that spot, but neither of them certainly are the talented Greek striker. They're good enough. I mean, 10th, they're right at the playoff line. But with VP Carlos Bocanegra, and we talk about this with Jason Longshore, being shown the door, the first general manager of the team. Garth Lagerwey is there doing Garth Lagerwey things. And then the interim manager, Rob Valentino, is been in place since Gonzalo Pineda left. And he's done, the team has done okay, but Atlanta is going to need something, I think, better to mend the holes in the team. The team has 2 wins in 2 losses in its last 4 MLS games. And as we speak, they are playing Miami at home, and they are down to Miami 1-0 late in the first half. They have a win over Columbus at home with Gregerson scoring twice after the 60th minute. They have a 2-0 loss at Los Angeles Galaxy that are currently leading the West. They have a 1-0 win at Charlotte. And then last time out, this team lost 2-0 at home to Alex Muil and Hani Mukhtar. The last place Nashville. That is tough to do, my friend. Tough to do. All right. Yeah. You know the history. This team has played very, very well against Atlanta since they entered the league in 2017. Only 2 losses, one of them in the regular season, which was last year when the Giacomakis goal was enough for a 1-0 win. That was the only time in the regular season Atlanta beat New York. Of course, we all know about the 2018 Eastern Conference Final, and we will not say anything more about it. The last time these teams played at Red Bull Arena, New York dropped a house on them with Danny Edelman, CCJ, and Frankie Amaya scoring a brace in that game, and 2 of those players are no longer on the Red Bulls. They're all 5-0-2 all time against Atlanta at Red Bull Arena. Danny Royer, active leading scorer, 4 goals all times against the 5 Stripes, and Lewis Morgan has 2. And here is most likely Rob Valentino's 4-2-3-1 that we will see against the Red Bulls on Saturday night. Brad Guzan is 40 years old. He's 40 years old.
With no knees.
With no knees, and he is still playing for this team. He has only 5 clean sheets in 26 games. He's given up 35 goals. Going around the back line, Pedro Amador, 24-year-old Portuguese, had an assist last season, with Moreirense. There's Derek Williams, 31-year-old Irish midfielder. Stian Gregerson with 2 goals that just came in the last month. Brooks Lennon is on this team, one-time promising youngster in the U.S. program, has 6 assists from right back, and that speaks to those long balls and crosses that Atlanta United, that's how they play. Johnny Fortune from TNT has a goal and 2 assists as one of the 6s, and Bartosz Szilch with a goal from Poland. He's the other. On the left wing, Edwin Mosquera, the 23-year-old Colombian, with 3 assists. As at the 10, Russian Alexei Miranchuk, who played with Atalanta last year, with 4 goals and 10 assists in La Liga. And in Serie A, my apologies. It's late for me. It's late. Just be kind. Be kind. The right wing is from Republic of Georgia, Saba Lojanza, with 7 goals and 3 assists. Dangerous. And up top, the 29-year-old Mexican, Danny Rios, with 9 goals and 4 assists. Quentin Westberg is injured. Ronald Hernandez is injured. Jean de Silva, 27-year-old Portuguese left wing, is injured. And so, although we'll hear tomorrow when we speak to Sandro Schwartz, there was a hope that Forsberg could be back for Saturday. Keep in mind, last time out, Atlanta lost 2-0 at home to Nashville. They are currently losing 1-0 at home to Miami, and then they come to New York. It's a home road, 3 games in 8 days for Atlanta, and they end up here, and New York has been rested for a week. What are your thoughts?
Well, before I get to my thought, just want to shout out Philadelphia, who's up 3-0 now on NYC.
Oh, my Lord.
So
what is happening?
That's in the 42nd minute. So shout out to them for running it up at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field. Where are they at?
They're at Yankee Stadium tonight.
Yeah, so keep scoring. On to our game, though.
Yeah,
you said it right. 3 and 8 games. This is going to be a tough, they're losing right now to Miami. They got to come up here, Saturday night. I feel like you got to take advantage of this travel that they've been, handed. And obviously they're looking for as many points as they can get.
They're right at the line. They're right below the line right now. Yeah.
Where, history-wise, we're very successful against Atlanta in the regular season. And I think I always say, you just got to take advantage of what's in front of you. And don't play down to your opponent. Come out, go get that goal inside 15 minutes and settle your nerves down. Atlanta's there for the taking. 3 points is a must, as you said. And I'll say that we probably get a 1-0 victory.
I think it's, you can make the argument that New York doesn't have the talent, that, without Forsberg, they're really nothing special. At some point, you just kind of have to protect your house.
Yeah. Against
a team that is really struggling and will really be kind of limping into this game. Yes, I'm sure as we'll hear from Jason Longshore, there'll be some squad rotation in what we're seeing out of Atlanta tonight. But when we looked at the remaining schedule, this is the easiest it's going to be. City, despite getting whomped tonight big time in the first half, they're only, any sort of a derby game you're going to get up for.
Yep.
Right. You're going that's right. You have to go to Toronto. Toronto's fighting for its playoff life. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're fighting for your playoff life. If New York can get up to 46 points on Saturday night, with only 4 to play, it's going to be difficult for them to miss out. They're really going to have to tank it. And that assumes that Forsberg will be back for sure for the derby. So you called it 1-0. I'm going to call it 2-1. I think if they can't get the job done here, then you really have to start to think: are we looking at an epic collapse? And is this team going to fall to fall to the bottom of the playoff picture? And could they possibly actually bottle this and find a way to go the whole rest of the season without a win? But we're going to think happy thoughts. I think we're going to send our positive energy to the boys who will be playing at home on Noche Latina Caliente. When we're back on Seeing Red, we're going to talk to friend of the show, Jason Longshore. So keep it here, won't you? Thanks. We're back at Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. You know, it's crazy that it's week 30, match 30 of the MLS season, and the Red Bulls and Atlanta United have yet to meet, but that will be remedied this Saturday night at Red Bull Arena. And always happy to talk Atlanta United with Jason Longshore, who is the color voice of Atlanta United Radio and the host of Soccer Down Here. Jason, how are you, my friend?
Doing well. What is this with no games all year long and then 2 in a matter of weeks between Atlanta United and the Red Bulls?
At a time when the teams are obviously figuring out, in the case of Atlanta, are they going to make the postseason? Maybe in the case of New York, are they going to make the postseason? It seems likely for the Red Bulls, but you never know. The last we saw you guys, it was last June. So it's been a really long time since these two teams played. And for those that are not familiar with the trials and tribulations of what's happening there, I mean, Bocanegra, got the sack. Important players that Red Bulls were aware of have left. New guys have come in. What is the story of the 2024 Atlanta United?
I mean, I feel like we got to go back to that last time. So June of 23, you're talking about Gonzalo Pineda as the manager. You're
Right.
talking about Carlos Bocanegra as the VP and technical director. You're talking about Thiago Almada as the 10. You're talking about Yorgos Yakimakis as one of the leading goal scorers in the league as the 9. And none of them are here at this stage. It's been a wild ride. So to get you caught up in the big picture, we have an interim manager in Rob Valentino. He has been an interim manager before. He was in 2021 when Gabriel Heinze was let go in mid-season. Rob took over and
it was like 8 coaches ago for you guys, or so it feels like.
It really wasn't, but it does feel that way a little bit. He was the bridge to Gonzalo Pineda, and Rob has been with the organization in a variety of capacities since 2018. He is Atlanta United through and through, and he is really grinding to find a way to get the best out of this group right now. That is not entirely whole. It's a pretty good roster, but you only have one real designated player right now in Alexei Miranchuk, who only has a couple of games under his belt. The Russian coming in by way of Atalanta, a Europa League champion from last season. Incredibly talented. I really like what he will be for this team. But when you talk about different profiles of a playmaker, he is about as far away from Thiago Almada, Miguel Almiron, Pity Martinez as you can get. He's not a dribbler. He is a quick, technical, passing player with a lethal left foot. But it's not about destabilizing teams on the dribble. It is with the pass. And as you know, if you're going to be built that way, that takes time. That takes chemistry to build. So that part's a work in progress. The number 9 position is a work in progress. And that's a position I would assume will be filled with a designated player going into 25. But right now it's Daniel Rios and Jamal Tiare, who combined have double-digit goals. They have gotten the job done up top as well as Yorgos Yakimakis did in the very beginning of the season. So it's not so much the 9 to me. The goals have been a little inconsistent for this team, but it's just been that. It's been inconsistent for the year. It's been some really good moments like beating Miami away, beating Columbus at home, but then some very disappointing moments like losing to Nashville at home last weekend, which was one of the most disappointing losses that I can remember in club history.
Alex Muyl continuing to do damage.
He always kills us. Always. Him and Daniel Royer are like the 2 guys in Atlanta United history that terrify me.
Well, he also terrified us because if he wasn't standing in front of Guzan for that one play in 2018, okay, I digress. So you guys, I mean, the idea that we're here in week 30 or match day 30 or and Atlanta has 8 wins on the season is, I mean, I can only imagine that the Atlanta United fans who were accustomed in their early days to winning trophies and competing as one of the league's best have got to be a little disillusioned, more than a little disillusioned about what's going on.
Learning the hard way about how hard it is in this league. I mean, you've seen it in your time with the Red Bulls, and I think anybody who's been around the league for any period of time with teams that have been on top and then not been on top. It's very hard to maintain it. And you got to have a lot of things go your way to make that happen. And the team has not done that consistently. I think when you look at that 2017 to 2019 era, you're talking about 2 Eastern Conference final appearances, 3 trophies if you include Campeones Cup. Really strong teams, really well built. But how many windows have you seen in league history where you had a team together pretty much for 3 years that looked great and won?
Yeah.
And how long do you keep that group together in this league with the way the cap is built? It's really hard to get past that. And they've struggled. And Joseph Martinez, his knee injury in 2020 was a dramatic change for where this team was and changed the trajectory, I think, for Frank de Boer, changed the trajectory for that season entirely and beyond. And I don't know if they've ever truly, completely recovered. There's been good moments, there's been good runs. The 2021 era with Gonzalo Pineda taking over in midseason, when he took over, that team was as good as any team in the league, and ran into NYC in a knockout game in the postseason and lost at Yankee Stadium. 23, that team, especially in the second half, when you added a lot of pieces in the summer transfer window, was as good as any team in the league and took Columbus down to the wire in the first round series and ultimately lost to the team that eventually won the title. So they haven't found that form in 2024 much at all. In one-offs, yes, but in consistent form, no. And they've got to try to find a way to find a little consistency the rest of the season.
And so this team hired Garth Lagerwey, right, to bring him in, and the writing perhaps should have been on the wall for Carlos Bocanegra when that happened. But those two guys kind of coexisted for a little bit before Bocanegra, who was really the architect, along with Darren Eales, of those great early Atlanta teams, found himself on the way out, right?
I'm glad you put it that way because I don't feel like Carlos gets enough credit for what he did building this team. Absolutely, he should. And I think it goes even further than just that first era of teams. I think it goes into the George Bellows and Caleb Wileys and George Campbells and great homegrown players, either in different clubs in MLS, in Atlanta United in MLS, or in Europe. Carlos put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into building the academy from scratch. And I really don't feel like this academy in Atlanta has gotten the credit that it deserves. What Red Bulls have done with their academy, amazing. Philadelphia has done, what Dallas has done, amazing. But in the era of expansion clubs, and you look at the clubs that have come really from 2015 on, there's not many that have produced the number and level of talent that Atlanta United has. And a lot of that is really down to Carlos Bocanegra overseeing it and emphasizing it and putting a lot of love into that section of the club. Carlos's legacy down the road, I think, will be much better than it probably is with the fan base now. At least it should be. I hope that it is. This club doesn't launch the way that it did without him. You don't bring in a Michael Parkhurst, you don't bring in a Jeff Lorenowitz, you don't bring in a Brad Kazan if you don't have Carlos Bocanegra. And I just can't tell you how many times we've had players. It was Yorgos Yakimakis, it was Alexei Miranchuk, the last big signing that Bocanegra's fingerprints are on. Both of them said what helped sway them and put it over the top was Carlos Bocanegra coming to them in Glasgow for Yakimakis and in Bergamo for Miranchuk, going to them to sit down with them and sell them on the idea.
Yeah, I can't even address the Red Bulls player acquisition issues, but before Atlanta heads to Red Bull Arena, which again, they have never won a match at Red Bull Arena
Don't remind me.
since 2017. But you guys have a midweek tilt. The Red Bull is only one of 3 teams, I think, that have Wednesday off, as they currently have played an extra game. But you guys have Miami. And so you're coming off a dreadful home loss to the Eastern Cellar Dweller. Now you get Miami. You do have a win against them. And then you've got to come to a place where, I mean, you're rooting for Laundry, but the team has never found success. I'm curious what the overall outlook is, match day -5 or 6.
It's a big week. It's a bigger week than it looked like it would be starting Saturday night. The playoff picture didn't really change all that much outside of more congestion at the back end of it.
Yeah.
With some of the results that went the way that they did. But Atlanta was 1 point out of the playoffs going into the day on Saturday. They're 2 points out. But you look at what's to come, and it's really difficult because there's a trip to Philly that comes up as well. Red Bulls come down to Atlanta.
They do.
Lots of really difficult games. And now the backs are a lot more against the wall. And look, there's some injury issues to deal with as well. You saw Pedro Amador have to leave the match at the very end, a head-to-head collision with Sam Surridge. Hopefully just laceration and not a concussion issue. He did train early in the week, so hopefully that will be good to go and there won't be any issues there. But Sean De Silva left the match in the first half. Left wing has been an issue for this team all season long. Silva's production has not been there. He's been battling a foot injury all season, and it's finally put him out, and we don't know for how long. I don't know if he'll be back in the midweek. I don't know if he'll be back for Red Bulls, and that opens up a lot of questions as to what Rob Valentino will do on that left side. I think what he has to try to find right now is loud voices in that locker room to... It's not wake people up. I don't think it's about a wake-up call. I think it's about just the level of urgency that has now dramatically increased because of the Nashville game. And, going into Red Bull Arena, coming off of, and I don't know how many times this has happened. I feel like it's been multiple where Atlanta's played midweek and then gone to Red Bull where you guys did not play midweek. And that's a brutal matchup against the way Red Bulls play, having the extra legs, legs worn down in the midweek. So it's going to be tough. There's going to have to be rotation from Saturday to Wednesday to Saturday. There's going to have to be. There's just no way you can do it. The only thing that makes me feel good about that element of it, Miami's not going to push the pace really in a game.
That's right.
It's not going to be fast. It's going to be at home. You don't have travel in those two. The trip to Red Bull is not a difficult trip. No. That's not going to take any extra out of you. So you'll at least have that going for you. But now that urgency has to really kick up a few notches, and you got to find a way to win 1-0 ugly. Well, that's where you are right now.
Well, and against New York right now, who's won 2 of their last 13, I don't think that would be out of the question. Jason, if there's 1 or 2 players that you mentioned, or perhaps even if you didn't mention, that Red Bull fans should be watching for, perhaps on Wednesday and certainly on Saturday, who would they be?
I think Moranchuk definitely, just because he's new and he's just been a joy to watch in training. It hasn't completely come out in matches yet. Again, I think it's just going to be games for him and building chemistry with the guys around him. But he's such a technical player. And, there's just something about lefties in general, but lefties who are 6 foot tall, so kind of lanky. And lefties playing centrally, you just don't see all that often. So he stands out. He pops off the screen to you, especially when he has the ball at his feet. He's a fun one to watch. And one of my favorite stories this season has been the rise of Jay Fortune in the midfield. Jay is a Trinidad and Tobago international. He's an Atlanta United homegrown. We did a feature on him on Soccer Down Here at soccerdownhere.net, where you got to sit down with him for about a half hour and really talk about his whole history, moving to Atlanta to join the academy, played for his dad up until that point, representing Trinidad and Tobago. And this has been the real year that's been a breakthrough for him. He scored the winner in Charlotte a couple of games ago. And he's just a a complete central midfielder. And I think, knowing how matches with Atlanta and Red Bulls have typically gone, that's the kind of central midfielder that I think is well suited to the match. And, we'll see what happens with him on Wednesday. He started on Saturday. He didn't play the full 90. I don't think he plays the full 90 on Wednesday because just my hunch is he's going to end up being really important to deal with the way the Red Bulls play. And he's a great story, a great guy, and I'm really happy for all the success he's having.
Any interview around Atlanta this year, I think we have to tip our cap to Dax McCarty, who obviously is going to be ending his MLS career in just a few weeks, and had some phenomenal seasons in New York. And he's been back to Red Bull Arena as members of the visiting team. How likely is it that we'll see him on Saturday, I guess is the question.
I think it is very likely. He's definitely going to play over these next 2 games. I don't know if it's from the start or off the bench, but Dax, and he's such a valuable part of a team that needs leadership and a team that needs that, I think, whether at times a calming presence on the field, and I think he's so good with that with the ball, but also that intensity that is needed. And you've seen that firsthand. I think, it's been interesting, and I'm sure this was another, and Dax spoke about it, Carlos reaching out to him and wanting to bring him in.
Yeah.
Osvaldo Alonso was that guy over the last couple of years, a veteran central midfielder to come in. Ozzy had awful luck with injuries here and ultimately wasn't able to contribute as much as Dax has. Dax has wanted more out of this season. I think everybody expected more, but he's been, I think, a really good presence with this group. And honestly, what struck me the most about Dax in Atlanta in 2024 is almost every central midfielder that we have featured on Soccer Down Here, mentioned Jay Fortune. We've talked to the Atlanta United 2 players quite a bit. We've really tried to put a lot of emphasis on telling their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them, whether they've played for the first team or not, has talked about how Dax has reached out, has sat down and watched video with them, has given them pointers, has, allowed them to ask questions. And I know you're not surprised by that, knowing the kind of person that he is.
Yeah.
But that's been such a cool thing to hear. I mean, guys who have not been in the first team are like, yeah, Dax has been great to me. He's really helped me. And the way I'm playing right now is in part due to what he's taught me. That's such a cool thing.
The term consummate professional is, I think, thrown around all too often. But I mean, if you looked up the dictionary, the definition, I mean, Dax would be staring back at you. And I think Red Bull fans will always have a special place in their hearts for Dax. And I think Red Bull fans obviously don't want to wish him success on the field, but I think everyone will be very, very happy to see him. Jason Longshore is the color radio voice of Atlanta United Radio, as he has been since the team was founded. And he is the host and creator of Soccer Down Here. Jason, thank you so much. I know it's a busy week for you. We appreciate you taking some time with us.
No, anytime. And hopefully we'll talk again here in a couple of weeks.
I'd love it. We've got more Seeing Red coming up in a few short minutes. So just keep it here, won't you? Thanks. It's hard to believe that we are a month away from Decision Day.
Yeah.
October 19th. A month from tomorrow is Decision Day. And I think we have to ask ourselves, were we like, your record is what you say it is, but this team has looked at times to be very, very good. We haven't seen very, very good in a while. But just, it's been an incredibly frustrating season that perhaps just raised all of our expectations given how quickly they got out of the gate. But 2 wins in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2 wins in 12 league games, 13 league games. Like, it's numbing.
It's not the best. I'll say this: like, if coming into the season, If you told me we'd be in 4th place with 5 games left,
Phenomenal.
I'd be like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. So, in retrospect, we're in a good spot, but like based on the start we've had, I feel like everybody's expectations went up. The hope was that we would get another striker. That didn't happen again. And now we're kind of, with Forsberg out, this is kind of the same team we had last year. And, we all know how good that team was. It really wasn't that good. So Forsberg can't get back anytime sooner. So hopefully he's back this Saturday. And if anything, he'll be back for the derby. So, but yeah, they need Forsberg back, not just because of his leadership, but his quality as well.
Yeah, for sure. They just need to have pride in playing at home, where the last 2 games have just been meh. You can write us anytime at seeingredny@gmail.com. You may be aware, if you have been listening and listening since 2010. Wow. I had brown hair. I had brown hair at the beginning of the season. That is not true. All right, here's Ed Ritter, who just wants to know what broke the Red Bulls this year, or was it the start of the season just a new manager bounce? Thanks for all you do. What do you think? What broke the Red Bulls this year?
I think I said it, I brought up 2 different points, and I think, we all know that Sandro, given, the squad that he had this year, has been overperforming. And, when you have your best player, your DP, big money signing go down in an international camp, gets a foot injury that, most of us, when I first saw that, I'd be like, oh, okay, he'll miss like a couple of games. And now he's been out, a couple months. So, and since that point, that's been the tailspin of the season so far. So I would point it to probably the Forsberg injury was the point that broke Red Bull this year. I think, Sandro's been doing the best he can with the squad. Scoring has been an issue, as it has been for the past couple of seasons. So, that's my thought. I think Forsberg's been the biggest thing that's kind of derailed the season, if we want to say that the season's been derailed.
Right. And again, they're fourth.
Yeah, exactly. We're fourth,
and the season's been derailed. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it goes to Forsberg. I think, listen, we're in a place where Lewis Morgan is rightly getting called up to Scotland, and it's a testament to the hard work and how he's grown as a player. Carlos Coronel getting called away to Paraguay and not playing is really, really unfortunate. Tolkien going at times, and I know it hasn't been a stellar season for Tolkien, but especially since he's been asked to do different things, but he's had his eyes on departing and, thought he played well at the Olympics. But I mean, this is a team that hasn't often had their desired 11 in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they sold Frankie Amaya.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They sold Frankie Amaya, who I don't think Red Bull fans appreciate how much he did for this team until they were without him.
Yeah.
Scoring goals, creating scoring opportunities, being a boss in the center of the field, and not to take away from Danny Edelman, and certainly not take away from Ronald Donkor, who showed fine for a 19-year-old, better than fine.
Yeah.
And expecting Carballo to come in here and just slot right in is not correct. Frankly, he's going to continue to need to grow into the role, and he'll be here at least through the middle of next year. So, and we have our DP forward continues to be allergic to scoring. And so I think a combination of things broke the Red Bulls this year, that 4th place team in the East. Thank you, Ed, friend of the show, as always.
Thank you, Ed.
Here's Mark Scheffel, who writes, a reminder that the COVID RSV Metro playoff fever combination vaccine is now available. Save yourself some unnecessary pain before it's too late. So ask your Metro player where to find it. They'll be able to help you unless it's near a goal. Yikes. That's Mark Scheffel. P.S. Decided to spend my money on Gotham this year. We'll see what happens over the winter. I mean, we haven't spoken to Jokin or Julian since the end of the transfer window, when the team, said we're going to flash the cash, and they replaced the guy they got $4 million for. it's too soon to go who's not going to be here next year, but we'll definitely do that. But I think you have to look at the forward core again, as Matt Doyle says, I don't want to talk about this anymore. They don't have enough quality up front. Any thoughts on Mark's note?
That's just that's what he's got to do. You know, if you as a fan don't think you're getting enough for your buck, you know, you gotta show that you're unhappy, and you know, taking his money to Gotham, you know, go support the girls, and hopefully something changes in the winter. You know, good on Mark.
Yeah, good note, Mark. Nothing wrong with supporting Gotham. They're scoring goals at home and away. They're third on the table.
Keep it going. Big
stars on that team. They should be frankly. I mean, I've been to a couple of games this year. I went to the Chelsea friendly, which, you know, I think New York Gotham put out their C team for that game and got trucked. But that's going to be fun, and fans should should listen to the Soccer Over Gotham podcast, and they should go to that game, go see that team as well. Here's Jordan Glass, frequent writer, says, yes, we're having a typical New York Red Bull season, good but not great, make the playoffs and get knocked out early. Okay, first of all, we're all assuming that's what's going to happen. We're all assuming that this team can't possibly get past the first round.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you got to get lucky, and maybe this is the year. But you know, for Red Bull fans, you know, we're scarred with playoffs, you know, getting eliminated in the first round. So we're just going to assume that we'll get eliminated. So when we don't get eliminated, we're like, oh my God, what happened? This is crazy.
It'll take me back to the wild card game against Charlotte, where it was like, what is happening right now? I'm feeling good and not stressed at all at a Red Bull
positivity.
Right. Jordan continues, okay, I'm going to defend this group and the front office a bit. Maybe hard to see it, but I think there's some praise here. We have to remember first-time MLS manager, who I think has done a fantastic job given what he walked into. I was worried at first, but he's proven to be great with the media and from the players, from what I can tell. There are a few new faces that need to adjust to MLS and life in the U.S. Forsberg is new. We need to remember that. Morgan isn't like a new player coming off a major injury and playing a new role as striker. Young players getting real minutes. They remind me of the New York Rangers a few years ago. Sorry, Dad. When the GM sent out the letter essentially tossing in the towel and saying, right, we need to rebuild, and it's going to take time. And that year they made a real cup run, and the rebuild happened much faster. This Red Bulls team looks to be like that. They should not be in the position they're in, but they're in a solid playoff spot with players returning, and they should be able to stay there. It may be too early to call it, but I'm looking forward to next season at this point. Make the necessary changes over the offseason, a goal scorer, and I see positives to come. That hardware is in the future, and I think it'll happen sooner rather than later. That is, of course, if this team isn't ripped to parts during the next transfer period. Oh, boy. Thanks and continued coverage, and hope all the best for Joe and his family. Best, Jordan. Yes, yes, yes. Thoughts on we're just seeing the early makings of a rebuild here? I mean, Forsberg is not a young man.
You know, shout out to Jordan for sending us this essay of an email. Lots of good points in here, though. You know, I'm not a big Ranger guy, but you know, you can kind of compare this team to what the Rangers were in when they put out that letter.
Yeah.
My whole thing is there's a bunch of good, you know, supplemental pieces to a team that you need to win. Red Bull's just missing the big pieces. They have one big piece with Emil Forsberg. Another big piece is a pure goal scorer, like he says in this email. And then, you know, another guy is another, you know, I'd say contributor in the offense would be another guy that you would need. And then keeping Lewis Morgan, I think, you know, there are guys in this team that if you were building a championship team would be on your team. It's just that they are slotted higher than you would want them to be. So, you know, I like this email. We've been saying I can't wait for next season for a couple of years now. So, you know, once we see them get that goal scorer, a pure goal scorer, you know, I think everybody's mood will change. So appreciate the email from Jordan.
As every team all around the world. Once they get that guy, City has pulled one back right before halftime. They're down 3-1 to Philadelphia, and Orlando and Charlotte are in the 12th, and Miami is up 1 on Saturday's opponent, Atlanta, 1-0 in Atlanta at the half. And remember, New York can fall as far as 6th place if both City and Orlando win tonight. If one of them wins, New York will fall to 5th before they take the field. Daniel, you call Saturday's match a
1-0 must-win victory. Everybody come out. They need you. You might not like what they've been doing recently, but this team thrives off the environment this season at Red Bull Arena. So let's come together and let's get a victory against Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a perfect night.
Mm-hmm.
Low 60s at kickoff, almost no chance of rain. I mean, it's going to be finally a phenomenal night. I'm going to call it a 2-1 Red Bulls win. We miss you, Joe Goldstein. We're thinking about you every single day. We've come to an end of a fantastic episode 588 of Seeing Red. We want to thank Zach Feldman for stats and Jason Longshore for coming by and Daniel for sitting in and dispensing the wisdom. As always, go Army.
Yes,
thanks for listening, guys. We will be back next week with more Seeing Red because we talk about this team. We like talking about this team, and we're going to keep talking about this team. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.